Hello and welcome to another episode of 7 Minutes of Precision. My name is Sharif, I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Joel Schneider, who is a competitive shooter and who was our guest already on this podcast before. Joel, how are you doing?
I'm good, Sharif. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. So, last time we talked about what do you want to look for when choosing a precision rifle or a rifle for precision shooting, correct?
Yeah.
And today we want to talk about scopes. Yeah, so we have some topics that we would like to talk about and discuss and see what you think and what I think and see what we can give to especially new shooters, what to look for when buying a scope for precision shooting, whether it's for matches or just blinking. So let's start with the first point, investing. Usually it's often said that you should invest more money in the scope than the rifle. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but tell us, why do you think that's the case?
Well, I don't know if that is the case. Like we've all seen that on the internet. Um, it's splattered everywhere. Snipers hide, and wherever you look, everybody's saying that. And so actually, I looked into that myself just earlier today. And there's a really good article from Steve Ranella on Meat Eater talking about that. Really, it boils down to you put the best scope that you can afford on your rifle. There's no reason to take out a second mortgage.
Yeah.
Is what it says. And look for something that suits your needs for what you want to do, whether it's a hunting rifle or we're talking more PRS in this podcast, so we lean towards that. So you're going to be looking for something with first focal plane. You're looking for something that is going to let in a lot of light, have a lot of elevation travel, good glass clarity, and we're going to get into all those topics, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
so
I don't think you need to spend more on your scope than you do on your rifle.
Okay.
But you should as much as you can.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you should put as much value in the scope as you can. And I think the reason why people say that is usually new shooters tend to buy a rifle, and let's say the rifle is $800 or $1,000. They end up buying maybe a $500 scope. And I think the point here is to say maybe you should put at least the same value or more, but like don't cheap out on the scope.
Yeah, totally. Definitely not.
Okay.
Agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So what about rings? I think also often it's one of the things that people maybe forget or try to save on some money when you're buying your rings.
Rings are a sneaky cost when you're putting together a rifle. Next thing you know, there's a $500 bill that you weren't expecting.
Yes.
I think rings are extremely critical. They are the one thing that connects your glass to your rifle. So spending more money on rings, like I use a lot of one-piece mounts. So that is machined out of one piece of aluminum.
Okay.
Tolerances in it are going to be perfect. You get more contact on your scope, better mounting system to your rifle. All of these things, we're just trying to minimize or eliminate movement between the optic and the rifle.
Yeah.
And cheap rings, it really boils down to the cost of manufacturing, right? It takes high precision equipment to manufacture these kinds of things. And the buying power in that is spread out in a really small niche community, which price up.
Yeah.
So, spending good money on rings is well worth it.
Yeah, I think you want to go with a reputable brand with rings.
Yep.
And especially, I guess a mount is probably a little bit easier to go wrong with. Harder to go wrong with, excuse me, than rings, because usually it's machined as one piece. So usually the two rings on the mount are machined together, so you know that they're in line. When you come to two separate rings, you want to make sure that the manufacturer is actually machining them in one operation and that they are both are concentric with each other.
In the old days, and I've never had to do this, but I know my dad did back in the days, lapping all of his rings, because I don't think we had that machining power.
Yeah.
So they would run a lapping compound with a steel rod. I don't even know. I've seen them do it, but I don't know how it works. And it's really just to a perfect alignment. But we can get that kind of precision in machining, and you definitely get it with one-piece mounts.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to the scope. Now, there are mills and MOA. what is the difference and what is the recommended nowadays, especially if you're doing PRS, NRL?
I think a vast majority of PRS NRL shooters are using mils. Mils stands for milliradian, and it's a complicated mathematical equation based on the radius of a circle. MOA is the same thing. MOA is a minute of angle. That is 1/60th of a degree. So they're both angular measurements. What it boils down to is in PRS and NRL, we're looking for speed. We're looking to get to our elevation dial faster. And mils does that, whereas MOA is a finer point adjustment.
See, that's true.
F-class guys and bench rest guys typically use MOA because they can fine-tune those groups at 1,000 yards. And in PRS, we're hit or miss. So bigger adjustments makes for faster adjustments.
So far, I've met only one person in matches that is shooting MOA in PRS. Now, I believe most people are doing milliradian. And there is a point for, talking with other people kind of the same language and speaking the same language with regards to that measurement. But if you are honestly really used to MOA and you don't need to think about it, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're just starting and you don't know what to go with, I would personally recommend milliradian.
I would too. And it's easy to switch too. It's just a series of numbers, and it's an angular measurement, so you get the same representation. It's kind of like the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius, really.
Yeah, and everything in milliradian is kind of 0.1, 0.2 in tenth, so it's kind of easier and straightforward to understand and remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this brings us to FFP and SFP, front focal plane and second focal plane.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Okay. Second focal plane. Second focal plane, the reticle does not scale with your power. When you're powering up the scope, reticle remains the same.
Yeah.
So if you have a reticle that has subtensions on it that you can read like a tape measure that also apply directly to your turrets, you can't trust those subtensions when you're at any power other than max.
Yeah.
So for the application of spotting misses, measuring targets, measuring anything with your reticle, second focal plane requires you to be at full power, and you don't always want to be at full power. First focal plane is a far superior system, and it's really just how the lenses are positioned inside the scope. And I know that's complicated. I don't really understand how it works.
And I believe the difference between SFP and FFP usually is a big contributor to cost difference, right? So if you see the same scope in first focal plane compared to second focal plane, there is a big difference in cost and price.
It seems to be, yeah, but there are first focal plane scopes coming way down in price, and it's definitely getting affordable to get into a first focal plane. Yeah, and I highly recommend that.
I'm also honestly not sure what is the best application for a second focal plane. I wouldn't even say hunting.
No, I wouldn't either.
Right?
I don't have the answer for you. I don't have any.
So you want to go with an FFP, with a front focal plane, where the magnification, actually when you increase the magnification, the reticle will increase in size as well.
Exactly, it scales with it. So your subtensions are always an accurate measurement within the scope.
And this brings us to the next point, magnification. I think most people want to go with a lot more magnification, which then you'll learn that you don't necessarily need that much.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely true. I tend to run pretty much everything at 19. When I first started shooting PRS 3 years ago, it was probably closer to 10 or 12. So you get more familiar behind your rifle. Finding targets is difficult when you're at high power. It gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The only run at full power is when I'm shooting groups at 100 yards.
Right, when you're low developing or maybe zeroing. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
When I started, I used to try to go to full magnification all the time, and I wanted to have the highest magnification on my scope. But then you find it very challenging to find targets when you're actually shooting PRS, because you need to have enough view in your scope to be able to locate targets and transfer between them or transfer between them.
Not only that, but when you're at full magnification, you get a lot more mirage through your image when you're looking at longer images.
That's true. So right now I usually go with 12 magnification. And on the stage, if I do need to increase my magnification, I locate my target first, and then I can increase my magnification if I feel like that would help me. But if I have a stage where I have like so many targets, I usually stick to 12 magnification.
Yeah, it's a great place to be and be able to get on those targets faster.
Okay. And usually when you're buying a scope, you have the option, depending on the model of the scope, of tube diameter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is kind of the standard nowadays? What do you want to look for in the diameter, and what does it change?
I don't know that there's any standard other than 34 millimeter and 30 millimeter, I guess, are the two standards. There's a couple offshoots that run 35s and 36s, but primarily 30 and 34s.
Mm-hmm.
What you get with a larger tube diameter is typically more elevation.
Right.
Better durability, more contact with the rings, which we already talked about. The more scope you have contacting the rings, the better your contact is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. So when you say more elevation, basically, so this is a 13 millimeter tube scope. So basically, you have your elevation turret right here, which moves the reticle piece of glass inside up and down, right? So what you're saying is when you go to a 34, you have enough space to do more travel. So that translates into more elevation.
And not all optic producers utilize that space. Like these elements, for example, this is a 34 and this is a 30, but they both have the same elevation travel.
Oh, interesting.
It's not really a fixed modality. But
okay. And other than elevation, it also changes in light-wise, correct?
Yeah, I don't personally notice a difference, but that's what the wise people on the internet say.
Okay, so
a little more light through, and it makes sense. You got bigger pieces of glass in there; it'll allow more light.
And also, usually, when you go to a 34, you usually have a bigger objective lens. I guess maybe in most models, that's the case.
Yeah, that's where the real light comes in, is the objective.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you could start with the 30 millimeter, but if you can afford a 34, that would be a better recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I would say so.
Hey guys, real quick. Have you seen our new ARS Mag Holster for AICS magazines? It features our new auto retention system, meaning you don't need to manually adjust retention of your mag holster anymore. All you have to do is grab your mag, put it in the holster, push straight down, and you got all the retention that you need. If you'd like to learn more about the features of this mag holster, click the link right up here and it will take you to our video going over all its features. And if you're listening on Spotify, you'll find the link of that video in the description down below. Now, let's get back to the podcast. So then what about reticles?
Reticles. Well, reticles come in all shapes and sizes, but really what I've noticed is it seems to me like most scope manufacturers have figured out what we want in a reticle and produced that. And now it boils down to personal preference. And all that really matters to me is your reticle legible and can you apply it under pressure?
Right.
So like I really like the Telson reticles. They have all the subtensions are 0.2s. Like that's where everything is. And a lot of reticles are like that. But you need to be able to look at your reticle, understand it, and make it work without having to think about it. Yeah. And there are reticles out there that are much more difficult to do that with. So enough information, but also being easy to read, easy to understand, and easy to apply.
Yeah, I think the most common right now is a Christmas tree style of reticle.
Yes,
and this is where it really gets important. If you are unable to use it because it's overly complicated and it has so many different dimensions and readings, then it becomes really useless. You do want those dashes because it helps you to hold for wind and elevation and so on. But if you're unable to apply it properly, if you're unable to tell the difference between the dashes, it's really not useful for you.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you are buying a new scope, I would recommend that you also consider looking at the reticle first before you get to the just buying the scope and then choosing whichever reticle they offer, right?
Yeah.
Great. And then turrets and zero stop.
Turrets and zero stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the zero stop is great. At the end of a stage, it allows you to just crank that thing right back down to where it stops. I think pretty much everybody, I don't want to give any price ranges, but pretty much all match grade scopes have a zero stop in them.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, other features like locking turrets where you have to pop it up to turn it. This Telson's got it. I think the Leupold Mark V is also locking.
I think only when you're at the zero, it is locking.
Oh, is that okay?
So that's kind of their zero stop. You have to actually manually click
it's
that lock.
button.
Yeah, it's that button. And then once you're outside or like, maybe at 1 mil or something, you can move it. But the moment you go back to zero, it locks at zero.
Right. Okay. So that's a really good system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turret adjustments. So the one thing we're looking at on turrets is.
But before we get to that, can you explain a little bit what is a zero stop? Because it's a common thing we say, but maybe a new shooter doesn't know it.
So zero stop is when you have your turret revved up and you're shooting a stage and you work your way up. A zero stop, when you come back down, stops it automatically on zero. It's a hard stop right there. And now you're back to your 100-yard zero or wherever you had it.
Okay. So a little bit more details. You may not, or maybe new shooter may not understand this. The reason why we do need to have it is because once you get a scope, you put it in your rifle, you're going to zero it, right? But under that zero, there's actually, you can go in opposite elevation. You can go in what's not elevation at this point. You're actually pointing more down. So the zero stop basically stops it at that zero. I don't know if that's clear or maybe not, but
you don't keep spinning it down to the next zero mark.
Exactly.
You're way off.
So, like you said, I would really recommend if you're buying a scope, if it doesn't have a zero stop, to go look for another model. But as you said, most of higher end scopes at this point, or even mid range, will offer a zero stop.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And what else do we want to look into the turrets?
So turrets come in 10 mils per rotation, 12 mils per rotation, 15 mils per rotation, totally personal preference.
I've seen 15 and I've seen 10, yes.
Yeah. How the clicks feel, if they make noise. Some people really like a very loud turret so they can hear it. I don't care about that at all. And it's nice to be able to feel it, obviously, but I tend to look up and see where you are anyway, and you should do that.
Yeah.
There are zero stop systems that are really nice. Like these elements have a tool-free zero stop, which is really good.
Yeah.
It costs extra money to get those kind of bells and whistles in a scope, but it is a feature.
Do you like locking turrets?
I do not like locking turrets.
Yeah, me neither. I really don't like them.
No.
I
run one on my 22 and it has locking turrets, and it doesn't bother me because you have to give it some force to put it back down. So in the morning I pop it up and I pop it down in the afternoon.
Spend the day with it. Yeah.
It's fun. But I have bumped it down and then had to figure out why I couldn't turn it in the middle of a stage.
I don't know I believe it's mainly a hunting feature, or
I think
that's its roots, basically. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's shoved in your backpack or crawling through the bush and you don't slip your turrets.
Yeah. I think what I personally like, I don't necessarily like louder clicks, but I do like, very distinctive clicks I can feel with my hand and actually know that I turned, maybe 3.3 mils or 0.4 mils, and I'm able to tell the difference.
Definitely.
The other thing is I have experienced the 15 mils rotation and the 10. The thing with the 15, though, it's kind of like they're too close to each other that sometimes you can do 0.4 instead of 0.3 because the
Yep, they are
dashes
close.
are much closer to each other. Yes.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so bubble levels.
Bubbling. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you recommend with bubble levels?
You having a level on your scope, make sure that your rifle is not canted. When it's canted
Mm-hmm.
and you are dialed way up in elevation, what happens is your bullet travel is not true to the turret that you're reading through your scope, and what you'll get is that kind of behavior,
Right.
and it will cause misses. Pulling a shot when you're out of cant definitely can cause misses.
Yeah, I
Um,
keep asking this question to everyone. How do you level your scope when you're mounting it?
there's a few different ways, and it can be really finicky, and there's tools available for it. The spur mounts that I really like, they actually have a wedge that
Mm-hmm.
goes into the bottom of the mount, and it levels to the scope.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really easy. That's probably the easiest system I'm aware of. Or when you're leveling a scope, you really are supposed to do it off of that the bottom flat spot underneath the turrets,
Okay.
because that's the true square to your reticle.
Yeah.
So I have seen like a little chunk of aluminum slid through there, an elastic band, and then you put a level on it and do it that way.
Hmm.
You kind of just have to get creative.
Okay.
Laser level on the wall.
Yes. Yes. Plumb
That
line
looks
as
good.
well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's always a debate of like which way is more correct.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation with a lot of people.
There's no such thing as more correct when you're dealing with plumb. It either is or it isn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, whenever you're mounting something, there is an acceptable level of very tiny
Definitely.
error. So I
Yeah.
think this is where you're always having this conversation of, well, this is the better way or this is the better way.
Mhm.
Okay. And I guess next would be illumination and actually forgot which one is this. Anyways, let's start with illumination and we'll go to the next one.
Illumination is a nice feature. It casts a light onto the etched glass reticle
Mm-hmm.
and makes the reticle light up.
Mm-hmm.
It's good in light conditions. Is it a must? No, I don't think so, but it's a nice feature.
Yeah, I think if you're hunting, maybe it's worth it, or if you're
Yeah,
going to use the scope in hunting. But if it's,
all
um,
light conditions for sure.
but if you're shooting for a match, it may not be that important. But I also think with most higher end optics nowadays, you will get illumination as a standard feature.
It's more often than not. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then if you do look at a scope, you do have the elevation at the top. Usually, the wind edge is on the right, and on the left we have the parallax. So,
Yeah.
what is the parallax, and what do we need it, and what should we look for when we're buying a scope?
Parallax brings all the pieces of glass inside the scope, into alignment that coordinates with the range that you are looking at, which
Mm-hmm.
brings it into focus and eliminates parallax. And parallax is that when you're looking at your reticle and you have your eye behind the scope, if you move your head around a little bit and that reticle moves, it means your parallax is not perfect for the range that you are shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. It also brings all the lenses into focus as well.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things when you're using the parallax dial is to not worry too much about the distances that are put in there. Those are
No,
just
they're
a
never.
general
Yeah,
indication, but they're not a precise indication.
definitely not. The only surefire way is to get behind the gun and look.
Yeah, nowadays I'm actually seeing new scopes that don't have those distances at all. They just have a dial and an
The
indication of
Telsons,
which way is further and which way is closer.
Telsons don't have any numbers. It's just a gradient.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else about scopes? Are we forgetting anything that we should talk about?
Man, they are such complicated pieces of equipment. There's a lot to talk about inside a scope, and I couldn't even start. I don't. I hardly understand how they work, frankly.
Yeah,
It's very, very complicated alignment and mechanicals of glass and screws, and It's a pretty impressive piece of equipment.
And that's really why you have to understand that it is an expensive piece of investment. And maybe one of the other things you should look at is warranty. You want to make sure that you're buying it from a brand that does, support the customer afterwards.
Yeah,
So make sure you do your research and look at the available brands.
100%.
Okay. Joel, any other thing you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so, Sharif.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us for the second time on the show. I hope it's not going to be the last time. I'm sure we can find other conversations to have and talk about.
I'm sure we can.
Awesome. And for listeners, if you do have any other point that we forgot, or maybe you want to add, or experience that you had with purchasing a scope, write it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until the next one.
Thanks, guys.